You started in your position at BOP 9 days after the death of Jeffrey Epstein. What happened with Jeffrey Epstein was an enormous black eye to the BOP and to the Department of Justice. It was disgraceful. Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile. He was a sexual predator who targeted and preyed on young girls. And yet he died in federal custody. He died in federal custody before he had a chance to testify about his crimes, about his wrongdoings, and about the other powerful men who were complicit in that sexual abuse. That was a moment that shocked this country. There were powerful men who wanted Jeffrey Epstein silenced. As I see it, there are two and only two possibilities for what happened with Jeffrey Epstein. Number one, there was gross negligence and a total failure of BOP to do its job, with a prisoner on suicide watch that led to Epstein's committing suicide. Or number two, something far worse happened. That it was not suicide, but rather a homicide carried out by person or persons who wanted Epstein silenced. Either one of those is completely unacceptable. Both of those are profound indictments of BOP and our federal incarceration system. Now, I understand there's an Inspector General investigation. I understand the Department of Justice is looking at this. But you came into an agency right after this happened, and as far as I'm concerned, when you came in, that was an agency in crisis. Let's take the more damning of the scenarios. Based on the evidence of which you're aware, is there any indication that Jeffrey Epstein's death was a homicide?
Based upon the evidence that I am aware, no. But as I've already told the committee, it is still being investigated by the FBI and the Inspector General's office. Once they initiate their investigation, we are required to remove ourselves completely from it. We're not allowed to talk to any staff members involved. We're not allowed to look at any evidence involved. And so I am not aware of very much regarding the Epstein investigation until it's completed. But there is no indication from anything I know that it was anything other than a suicide.
As I understand it, 2 prison guards were recently indicted for falling asleep when they were supposed to be on watch, for failing to engage in the periodic every 30-minute check on suicide watch on Jeffrey Epstein, and then falsifying their records to claim that they had in fact done their job when the allegation is they're now asleep. Is that right?
That's what I heard on the media today. I have gotten no official reporting of that yet at all.
Other than those 2 individuals, has anybody at BOP yet been disciplined or terminated for their conduct that led to the Jeffrey Epstein death?
We're still waiting for the conclusion of the investigation, Senator. We can't act on any of that until we have the evidence, the information. But I assure you, if there's any misconduct or if these individuals were indicted, we don't want people like that working in the Bureau of Prisons. They do not represent the vast majority of the 35,000 employees across the Bureau of Prisons. Most of our staff are very high quality, good people that are doing the right thing. And you are right, this incident was a black eye on the entire Bureau of Prisons. And unfortunately, everyone takes a singular incident and paints the whole brush across the entire organization and assumes the entire organization is dysfunctional and incompetent. And that is absolutely not the case. We have some bad staff. We want rid of those bad staff who don't do their job. We want them gone one way or another, either by prosecution or by termination. But the good staff are doing extraordinary work out there every day managing the 177,000 inmates. You never hear anything about those people because they're doing their job and things are running well. The only time we ever get noticed is when something bad happens. And that's unfortunate.
Dr. Sawyer, let me say, given what occurred here, there is reason for a great deal of concern, and I understand the sentiments that you want to have the back of your team, and I understand those sentiments entirely. But we have 2 prison guards that have just been indicted for literally falling asleep on the job and then lying about it. And my question to you is, what have you done leading this organization to determine how many other prison guards have fallen asleep on the job, have lied about it? How many other video cameras installed to ensure safety and security are inoperative, as I understand the video cameras were inoperative with Epstein? What are you doing proactively to make sure this doesn't happen again?
Within a couple of weeks of my arriving on the job, I did a video program out to all of our employees, telling them very clearly that we don't know for sure what happened at the Epstein case because I don't have the information. But if any staff members out there are not doing their rounds effectively in special housing units, if they are not doing their counts effectively, and if they are signing documents that says they are doing things that they are not doing, not only is that a dereliction of duty, but it's a violation of the law. And we will discipline and we will prosecute if necessary. I made that position very clearly to all 36,000 of our employees out there. In terms of the camera issue, I mentioned earlier that we're right in the midst this past year into next year to replace all of our cameras across all of our institutions, going from analog to digital and increasing the number of cameras at all of our institutions. In the meantime, we knew our cameras were faulty in some locations. They're picking up what's happening, but it's not very clear. It's kind of a grainy analog kind of a view, which is never acceptable in investigations. So we are completely replacing all of our cameras in all of our institutions, and that should be completed sometime into this next coming year. We are making very clear, our management staff, all of our regional directors have been very clear. I sent out a letter to the wardens telling them very specifically in response to their staff that they need to repeatedly be telling their staff and reminding them and making sure the post orders and the requirements are very clear and evident to all of our employees of what their responsibilities are. And if they choose, if we have a training issue that our staff doesn't know how to do something, that's management's fault. We have to train those people. But if it's instances where people know and they're experienced and they simply choose not to do their job, then I want them gone. I want every one of them out of our institutions because they not only make the inmates unsafe, they make our employees unsafe too, and that is a completely unacceptable situation.
To cover the waterfront of the attack on our hormones with the estrogen mimickers against men and women, to talk about some of the big medical developments in the studies that are now on record of nutraceuticals that the elite are taking that they've made sure are so expensive it's hard for the general public to get them, that are growing the telomeres in the DNA, that are spurring mitochondrial growth and keeping cells alive, that are causing nerve regeneration. This is stuff you're allowed to say because it's patented and been certified, because it's now supplements going into the whole nutraceutical realm. This will not be an infomercial for the next hour.
Okay.
Except for about 5 minutes of it. DNA